So, here's something worth thinking about as you settle in tonight. You can remember this morning. You cannot remember tomorrow. That sounds too obvious to say, but it is one of the deepest mysteries in all of physics, and nobody fully understands it. Time, for you, has a direction. It flows one way, from a past you remember toward a future you cannot see. Your tea cools and never warms itself back up. Your body grows older, never younger. A glass falls and shatters, and never leaps back together whole. Everything in your life points the same way, from before to after, and you feel it so surely that it seems it could not be otherwise. And here is the strange part, the part we are going to sit with tonight. When physicists look at the deepest laws of nature, the rules that govern how particles move and bump and pull on each other, they find that those laws do not care about the direction of time at all. They work exactly the same forwards and backwards. In the deep laws, there is no arrow. There is no before and after, no past and future, only motion that could run either way. And yet here you are, in a world where the past is fixed and the future is open, where time flows, unmistakably, in one direction. Where does that direction come from, if the laws underneath do not have one? That is the question, and the answer reaches all the way back to the beginning of the universe. Tonight, we are going to sit with all of it, gently, the parts that make clean sense, and the parts that still confuse the people who study them for a living. You do not need to follow every step. You do not need to hold anything in your head. If you drift off somewhere along the way, that is completely fine. Time will keep flowing while you sleep, carrying you gently toward morning, the way it always has. The ideas will still be here in the morning. And so will you. So let's start where the story actually starts, with a puzzle so simple a child could pose it, and so deep that it is still not fully solved. Watch something happen, and then imagine it running backwards. Some things look perfectly fine in reverse. A planet orbiting a star, filmed and run backwards, just orbits the other way, and nothing looks wrong. Two billiard balls colliding, filmed and reversed, still collide in a way that obeys every law of physics. If you filmed just a few atoms bouncing around and played the film backwards, no physicist could tell which way was forwards. At the level of the very small, the individual pieces, time has no obvious grain. The film runs equally well both ways. There is one tiny exception to this, and it is worth mentioning because it is real and because it turns out not to solve the puzzle at all. Deep in particle physics, in the behavior of certain rare, short-lived particles, there is a very slight preference for one direction of time over the other. In the workings of the weak nuclear force, a handful of processes run just a little differently forwards than backwards. It was a genuine surprise when it was found in the 1960s, and it earned a Nobel Prize because everyone had assumed the deep laws were perfectly even-handed about time, and here was a crack in that assumption. But the crack is astonishingly small. It shows up only in exotic particles, in rare events, and it has nothing obviously to do with cooling tea or breaking eggs or aging bodies. It is far too faint and far too obscure to explain the great sweeping arrow of everyday life. So the puzzle stands. Even granting that one tiny asymmetry, the everyday arrow of time remains unexplained by the deep laws. The overwhelming direction you feel, from morning to night, from young to old, does not come from that faint particle physics preference. It comes from somewhere else, from entropy, and from the beginning, as we will see. But now, film something bigger. Film a cup of tea, sitting on a table, slowly cooling, its warmth spreading into the room. Run that backwards, and it looks absurd. You see a lukewarm cup gathering heat out of the cool air around it, growing hotter all by itself, until it steams. You have never seen that happen, and you know at once the film is running backwards. Film an egg falling and breaking, and run it backwards, and you see the pieces of shell leaping off the floor and reassembling into a whole egg that jumps up into a waiting hand. Absurd, impossible. Film a drop of ink spreading through water and reverse it, and you see a faint gray glass gathering its color back into a single sharp drop. It never happens. Somewhere between the few bouncing atoms, which look fine in reverse, and the cup of tea, which does not, an arrow appears. A direction enters the world. And the great puzzle is this: if every single atom in that cup of tea obeys laws that work fine backwards, then how does the whole cup, made of nothing but those atoms, come to have a direction the atoms do not? The first real handle on this came from the study of heat in the 1800s, from the same science we visited on the night about heat. Engineers and physicists studying steam engines noticed a plain and stubborn fact. Heat always flows from hot things to cold things, never the other way, on its own. Warmth spreads out. Differences even away. A hot coal in a cold room warms the room a little and cools itself a lot until everything is the same temperature, and then nothing more happens. This one-way flow was so reliable that it was raised to a law, one of the great laws of physics, called the second law of thermodynamics. And it is the one law in all of physics that knows the difference between past and future. It is the law of the arrow. A German physicist named Rudolf Clausius gave the idea its name in 1865. He invented a quantity to measure how spread out and shared the energy in a system is, how far it has gone toward that even, mixed, settled state. He called it entropy. And the second law, in his words, is simply that the entropy of the universe tends toward a maximum. Things spread out, order dissolves, heat flows from hot to cold, differences even away. Entropy climbs, and never, on its own, goes back down. That is the arrow, stated as a law. The past is the direction of lower entropy. The future is the direction of higher entropy. Time points the way that entropy grows. It is worth knowing that this idea did not begin with anyone asking about time. It began with steam engines, as we saw on the heat night. In the early 1800s, a young Frenchman named Sadi Carnot was trying to understand why engines waste so much of their heat, and he found that there was a limit, a ceiling, on how much heat could ever be turned into useful work. Some of it always had to be dumped, spread out, lost to the cold. Nobody was thinking about the direction of time. They were thinking about coal and pistons. But hidden in that practical problem was the deepest asymmetry in nature. Work can turn entirely into heat, easily, but heat can never turn entirely back into work. There is the arrow, first glimpsed in the belly of a steam engine. It was William Thomson, the Scottish physicist later known as Lord Kelvin, who first grasped the vast cosmic reach of it. In the 1850s, he realized that if heat always spreads and never fully gathers, then the universe as a whole must be running down, slowly, irreversibly, toward a state where all its heat is evenly spread and no more work can be done. He wrote about a universal tendency toward the dissipation of energy. It was the first time anyone had seen that the whole cosmos might have a direction, a destiny, a slow slide toward a final, even stillness. This is the origin of the idea we now call the heat death of the universe, and it landed in its day with a strange weight. because it suggested that the universe was mortal, that it was aging, that it had a past very different from its future. The eternal, changeless heavens of the old picture were gone. In their place was a universe with an arrow, born ordered, dying even. And then came Boltzmann in the 1870s to explain why. His answer, that entropy is about counting, about probability, was so far ahead of its time that many of his peers rejected it, and rejected the atoms it depended on, and the fight wore him down, as we saw. He gave us the deepest understanding of the arrow anyone has ever had, and he did not live to see himself proven right. There is a sad and fitting symmetry in that. The man who explained why time runs forward, why the past is gone and cannot be recovered, was himself swept forward by that same arrow, past the recognition he had earned, into a darkness he could not turn back from. The arrow he understood so well carried him, as it carries everyone, one way only. But naming the arrow is not the same as explaining it. Why does entropy only ever increase? Clausius could describe it, but not say why the universe should obey such a rule when the deep laws of motion have no such preference. The person who found the reason, the person who saw all the way to the bottom of it, was the Austrian physicist Ludwig Boltzmann, whom we met on the heat night, and whose story is one of the saddest in science. In the 1870s, Boltzmann understood that entropy is not really a substance or a force. It is about counting. It is about probability. And that insight is the heart of everything we understand about the arrow of time. Here is his idea, as gently as it can be put. Think about the cup of tea again, hot in a cool room. When the heat is all gathered in the tea, the fast-moving molecules are concentrated in one small place. That is a very special, very particular arrangement. There are only so many ways to arrange the molecules so that all the fast ones sit in the cup. But when the heat has spread out evenly through the tea and the room together, there are vastly, unimaginably more ways to arrange the molecules that all look the same from the outside. All look like that even. Lukewarm sameness. Boltzmann's insight was that entropy is a measure of how many microscopic arrangements would look the same. The spread-out state has far more arrangements, so it has higher entropy. And the reason entropy increases is almost embarrassingly simple once you see it. The molecules are constantly jostling, bumping, rearranging at random, and random rearrangement almost always lands you in one of the vastly more numerous spread-out states, simply because there are so many more of them. Heat spreads for the same reason a shuffled deck comes out disordered. There are just far more ways to be mixed than to be sorted. So the arrow of time in Boltzmann's picture is not driven by any force. It is driven by probability, by the overwhelming weight of large numbers. The future is not different from the past because a law pushes things forward. It is different because there are so many more disordered states than ordered ones that a system left to itself will almost certainly drift toward disorder, always, with the patience of enormous numbers. It is not impossible for the tea to grow hotter on its own. It is just so wildly unlikely that you would wait many times the age of the universe and never see it once. The arrow of time is a matter of odds, not of law. And that is a strange and beautiful thing to sit with. The most certain feeling fact in your life, that time flows one way, rests at the bottom on nothing firmer than probability, on the fact that there are more ways to be messy than to be neat. Once you see the arrow this way, you start to notice it everywhere, in the smallest ordinary things, and it is oddly soothing to name them. A drop of ink spreads through water and never gathers back. Perfume drifts across a room and never returns to the bottle. A sandcastle crumbles into the beach and the waves never build it back. A cup falls and shatters, and the pieces never leap together. Cream swirls into coffee and fades to an even brown, and no amount of stirring brings the white back. Smoke rises and thins into the air and never pours back down into a neat curl. Every one of these is the arrow. Every one is entropy, climbing. And every one is one way. Not because the reverse is forbidden, but because the reverse is so absurdly unlikely that the whole age of the universe would not be long enough to wait for it. And notice gently that you have never once seen any of them run backward. Not in your whole life. Not anyone in all of history. The consistency of that is total. In a universe whose deepest laws do not care about direction, every large thing that has ever happened, everywhere, has pointed the same way. That is the strange power of large numbers. Each tiny piece is reversible. The whole is not. And the difference, the entire difference, is counting. There are simply more ways for things to be spread out than gathered, more ways to be mixed than sorted, more ways to be broken than whole. So the world drifts, always, toward the spread and the mixed and the broken, and that drift is what you call the passing of time. There is a gentleness in seeing it this way, rather than a sadness. The wearing down of things is not a punishment or a decay imposed from outside. It is just the world wandering, at random, into the states that are most numerous, the way a walker in a wide field ends up, almost always, somewhere in the vast middle, rather than back in the small corner where they started. Everything settles, because settled is simply where most of the room is. Your tea cools because cool is where most of the room is. Your day winds down because wound down is where most of the room is. And tonight, as you settle toward sleep, you are doing the most natural thing in the universe. You are letting yourself drift, gently, toward rest, toward the wide and easy middle, the way everything does. Boltzmann's idea was beautiful, and it was almost immediately attacked by two clever objections that seem to show it could not be right. They are worth understanding, because wrestling with them leads straight to the deepest answer we have. The first came from a colleague named Joseph Loschmidt, and it is called the reversibility paradox. Loschmidt said, in effect, wait. You claim that a system always moves from lower entropy to higher, from order to disorder. But the underlying laws of motion are perfectly reversible. So for every way the molecules could move that increases entropy, there is an exactly mirror image way, running the other direction, that would decrease it. If entropy usually goes up, why does it not, just as often, by the reversed motions, go down? The laws do not prefer up. So how can Boltzmann get a one-way arrow out of two-way laws? The second objection came from a mathematician named Ernst Zermelo, and it is called the recurrence paradox. There is a theorem that says any closed system, left alone for long enough, must eventually return arbitrarily close to its starting arrangement. Wait long enough, and the molecules will, by sheer chance, wander back into almost exactly the ordered state they began in. So entropy cannot only ever increase. Given enough time, it must come back down again, as the system recurs. The tea, in principle, will one day gather its heat back if you wait unimaginably long. So how can the second law be absolute? Both objections are correct, in their way, and Boltzmann's answers to them are subtle and honest. To the recurrence paradox, he essentially agreed, and then pointed out that the time you would have to wait is so absurdly long, so many times the age of the universe, that it never matters in practice. Yes, the tea might one day gather its heat back, but not before the stars have all died many times over. The waiting time is not merely long. It is so vast that if you wrote it out, the number of years would have more zeros than there are atoms in your body. Against a span like that, the whole age of the universe so far is nothing, less than the blink of an eye. So the recurrence is real in principle and utterly irrelevant in practice. The arrow is not eternal, but it is reliable for any span of time we could ever care about. You will never, ever see your tea uncool, no matter how long you live, no matter how long anyone lives, no matter how long the human story runs. The odds are simply too far beyond reach. To the reversibility paradox, though, the answer is deeper, and it took decades to become clear. Loschmidt was right that the laws do not prefer increasing entropy, so the statistics alone cannot be the whole story. If disorder is simply more likely, then it should be more likely in both directions of time. Looking backward from now, the past should also be more disordered, not less. But it is not. We remember a past that was more ordered, not less. And that means something extra is needed, something the pure statistics cannot supply. There must be a reason the past was special. There must be a reason the universe started out in a state of extraordinarily low entropy. And that reason is not in the statistics at all. It is in the initial condition of the universe itself. This is the crux of the whole matter, so let us go slowly. The statistics tell you that, starting from any given state, the future is very likely to have higher entropy, because there are more high-entropy states to wander into. But by the very same logic, run backwards, the past should also be very likely to have had higher entropy for exactly the same reason. The statistics are blind to time's direction. So on the statistics alone, the most likely history of a lukewarm cup of tea is not that it was hot a while ago. It is that it has been lukewarm forever, and only momentarily, by a rare fluctuation, appeared to be anything else. That is absurd, of course. We know the tea was hot, because we remember pouring it. But the point is sharp. Nothing in the statistics explains why the past was more ordered than the present. To explain the arrow, you cannot only say that entropy tends to increase. You must add a second thing. You must say that, for some reason, the universe began in a state of very low entropy, extraordinarily ordered, and has been running downhill from there ever since. Only then does the arrow point one way. Only then is the past truly different from the future. Physicists have a name for this added assumption, this necessary extra ingredient. They call it the past hypothesis. It is the idea that the universe began some 14 billion years ago in a state of remarkably low entropy, and that everything about the arrow of time, everything about the difference between past and future, flows from that single fact. The reason your tea cools, the reason you remember yesterday, the reason the egg breaks and never unbreaks, the reason you grow older, all of it traces back to the extraordinary orderliness of the beginning. The arrow of time points away from the Big Bang. We are, all of us, and everything we do, sliding down the long slope that began in that ordered dawn, and the direction of the slide is what we call the passage of time. But this only pushes the mystery back one step, to a stranger and deeper question. Why did the universe begin in such a low entropy state? Why was the beginning so extraordinarily ordered? This is one of the great unanswered questions in all of physics, and it is worth sitting with, because the answer is not known, and the shape of the puzzle is genuinely surprising. Because here is the strange thing. When you first hear that the early universe was very ordered, you might picture something neat and structured, like a tidy room. But the early universe was almost the opposite of that. It was a nearly uniform, featureless, smooth soup of hot gas, spread out almost perfectly evenly in every direction. It looks, at first glance, like the most disordered thing imaginable, a formless haze with no structure at all. So how can that be a state of low entropy, of high order? The answer is one of the most beautiful and least intuitive ideas in the subject, and it comes down to gravity. For most things, most of the time, spreading out evenly is the high entropy state, the disordered one. A gas released in a room spreads to fill it, and that even spread is disorder. But when gravity is important, everything flips. Gravity pulls matter together. So when matter is spread out smoothly, gravity has a great deal of work still to do, a long way still to fall. A smooth, even distribution of matter under gravity is actually a very special, very low entropy state, like a ball held at the top of a hill. And as gravity pulls the matter together, clumping it into stars and galaxies and eventually black holes, entropy increases. The clumped, structured universe we see now, full of galaxies, is higher in entropy than the smooth beginning, not lower, because gravity has done its work of pulling things together. This is deeply counterintuitive. The structure we see, the stars and galaxies, is a sign of increased disorder, not order, once you count gravity properly. And the highest entropy state of all, for gravity, is a black hole. Black holes, it turns out, have the most entropy of anything, enormously more than the matter that made them. So the universe is running from a smooth, low entropy beginning toward a clumped, black hole-ridden, high entropy future, and gravity is the engine of the whole slide. This is worth turning over slowly, because it stands the everyday picture on its head. In your kitchen, order looks like things gathered and arranged, and disorder looks like things scattered and spread. But on the largest scale, with gravity in charge, it is the reverse. The scattered, smooth, even beginning was the ordered one. The gathered, clumped, structured present is the disordered one. And the most gathered thing of all, a black hole, holds the most disorder of anything in the universe. It is a strange inversion, and it takes a while to sit right. But it means something lovely about the world we live in. All the structure we see, the stars, the galaxies, the planets, the intricate order of a living body, exists only because the universe is partway down its slide, only because gravity has done some of its clumping, but not all. We live in the rich middle of the story, after the smooth beginning and long before the even end, in the one stretch where structure and complexity and life are possible at all. There is a quiet gift in that. You are here in the interesting age of the universe, the age of stars and worlds and minds, the age when the arrow is still running strong and the flow is rich enough to feed on. It will not last forever, but it is here now, and you are in it, and the very fact that there is structure to notice, a body to lie in, a mind to wonder with, is a sign of exactly where in the great slide you are. Neither at the ordered dawn nor the even dusk, but in the living middle, where the current is full and the world is rich, and there is still so very much to see. So the early universe was low in entropy, precisely because it was smooth, because gravity had not yet begun its clumping. And that is what needs explaining. Why did the universe begin so smooth, so evenly spread, so far from the clumped state gravity wants to make? A smooth beginning is a very special, very unlikely seeming initial condition, and nobody knows why the universe had it, The physicist Roger Penrose has emphasized just how extraordinary this fineness is, how precisely the beginning had to be arranged to be that smooth and that low in entropy, and he has argued it is one of the deepest facts about the universe that we do not understand. He proposed one idea tied to the smoothness of the early universe's geometry, but it remains unconfirmed. Others hope that the process of cosmic inflation, the brief, violent stretching we met on the expanding universe night, might explain the smoothness, though whether inflation truly solves the entropy puzzle or just relocates it is itself debated. The honest state of things is that we do not know why the universe began with such low entropy. We only know that it did, and that everything about the direction of time depends on it. Take a slow breath with that, because it is a remarkable place to have arrived. We started with the simplest possible question: why your tea cools and never uncools, why you remember yesterday and not tomorrow. And following it down, carefully, we have been led all the way to the birth of the universe, and to a mystery no one has solved. The direction of time, the most familiar feature of your entire existence, the flow you feel in every moment, comes from the fact that the universe began in an extraordinarily ordered state, and we cannot say why. Every cup that cools, every memory you hold, every breath that carries you toward morning, is the universe sliding down the slope that began in that ordered dawn. You are, in the most literal sense, falling away from the beginning of time, and so is everything else. It is a strange and beautiful thing to picture, lying here. 14 billion years ago, the universe was wound up, ordered, held at the top of the slope, like a great clock fully wound, and ever since, it has been slowly unwinding, running down, and everything that has ever happened, every star that has shone, every wave that has broken, every thought that anyone has had, has been a small part of that one long unwinding. The whole history of the cosmos is the sound of a single clock, wound at the dawn of time, running down ever since. And you are one tick of it, tonight, one small motion in the great unwinding, carried along with everything else. There is no weight to carry in that, only a kind of company. You are not sliding down the slope alone. Everything is sliding with you. Every atom, every star, every living thing, the whole universe, all of it moving the same way, all of it carried on the same current, all of it unwinding together from the same ordered beginning. You are part of the largest and oldest motion there is, and tonight, your small part of it is simply to rest, and let the unwinding carry you gently down into sleep, along with everything else that exists. Now, so far we have talked about the arrow of time as if it were one thing, the thermodynamic arrow, the direction in which entropy increases. But when you look closely, you find that the arrow of time shows up in several different guises, several different one-way features of the world, and part of the wonder is that they all seem to point the same way. Physicists talk about several arrows of time, and it is worth meeting them, because the deep claim is that they are all, at bottom, the same arrow, all tracing back to that low entropy beginning. There is the thermodynamic arrow, the one we have met, the direction in which entropy increases, in which heat spreads and things wear down. There is the psychological arrow, the direction of your own experience, the fact that you remember the past and not the future, that you feel time flowing from behind you to ahead of you. There is the cosmological arrow, the direction in which the universe expands, growing larger as time goes on. There is the radiative arrow, a subtle one, the fact that waves spread outward from their sources and never converge inward. Drop a pebble in a pond, and ripples spread out from the splash. You never see ripples spontaneously converge from the edges of a pond to spit a pebble up into your hand. Light and radio waves spread outward too, from stars and antennas, never inward. And there is the causal arrow, the fact that causes come before their effects, never after. 5 arrows at least, all pointing the same way. And the astonishing claim, which most physicists believe, is that they are not independent. They are all the same arrow, all reflections of the one deep fact, the low-entropy beginning of the universe. Take the psychological arrow, the one closest to you, the one you are using right this moment to follow these words. Why do you remember the past and not the future? It feels like the most basic thing about being a mind. But it too comes from entropy, and this is one of the loveliest connections in the whole subject. To form a memory is to create a record, to leave a mark, to change something in your brain from a blank state to a written one. And making a record, physically, always increases entropy. It always costs a little order somewhere, released as heat, exactly as we saw with the erasing of information on the heat night. A memory is a physical trace, and traces can only be reliably made in the direction of increasing entropy. So you remember the past, the lower entropy direction, because that is the direction in which records can be laid down. The future leaves no traces in the present, because the traces all point the other way. Your memory has an arrow because entropy has an arrow, and entropy has an arrow because the universe began ordered. The reason you can recall this morning and not tomorrow morning reaches all the way back to the beginning of time. Think about what a memory really is, physically, because it makes this less abstract. When something happens near you, it leaves marks, a footprint in sand, a photograph on film, a pattern of connections, strengthened among the cells of your brain. All of these are records, and all of them are order imposed on what was blank, structure written where there was none. And you can only write such a record by spending energy, by increasing entropy somewhere else, by giving off a little heat. So records of every kind can only be laid down in the forward direction of time, the direction entropy allows. That is why the past is full of records and the future is empty of them. That is why there are photographs of yesterday and none of tomorrow. That is why you can know what happened and only guess what will. The whole difference between a knowable, recorded past and an open, unrecorded future is the difference between the direction you can write in and the direction you cannot. And it means something gentle about your own remembering tonight. Every memory you hold is a small piece of order, written into you at the cost of a little of the world's entropy, a trace of a moment that really happened, kept. Your whole life, in a sense, is a vast archive of such traces, laid down one after another, in the one direction time allows, building the person you are. You are made partly of records. You are a creature who carries its past inside it, written in the arrangement of your own cells, because you live in a universe with an arrow that lets the past be written and kept. Without the arrow, there would be no memory, and so no continuous self, no you that persists from moment to moment. The arrow does not only carry you forward, it is what lets you remember having been carried. It is what lets there be a you at all, gathering a life behind you as you go. There is something almost dizzying in that, and also something grounding. The flow of time that you feel right now, the sense that this moment is sliding into the next, that the past is behind you and the future ahead. is not a separate, mysterious thing added on top of the physics. It is the physics. It is you, a physical system, laying down memories and undergoing change in the one direction that entropy allows. You are a small part of the great slide from the ordered beginning toward the disordered future, and your very sense of time passing is the feeling of that slide, from the inside. When you feel time flow tonight, as you lie here, you are feeling the second law working in you, in the only direction it can go. Now we come to the strangest question of the night, and it is one physicists still argue about. Does time actually flow at all? It sounds like a mad thing to ask. Of course time flows. You feel it flowing right now. The moment slips by. The clock ticks. But hold on. When physicists look at their equations, they find something odd. The flow of time is not in them. The laws describe how things are arranged at different moments. They do not contain a moving present, a now that travels from past to future. In the physics, there is no special moment called now. There is no flow. There is just a sequence of moments, all laid out like frames of a film. This picture has a name. It is called the block universe. Imagine the whole history of everything, all of space, and all of time, laid out at once, as a single unchanging block. Every moment that ever was, or ever will be, sitting there, fixed, all together. Your birth, this night, your death, every moment of every life, all of it, spread out in the block, equally real, none of it more now than any other. In this view, time does not flow any more than space flows. The future is not coming toward you. It is simply there, ahead of you in the block, the way the next town is there along the road, whether or not you have reached it. And the past has not vanished. It is still there, behind you in the block, as real as it ever was. The road picture is a good one to hold. Think of a long country road running from a town behind you to a town ahead. The road does not move. The towns do not move. They are all just there, laid out along the way. And as you travel, the scenery seems to flow past you, coming toward you from ahead, sliding away behind. But nothing is really flowing. It is you that is moving, along the fixed road, past the fixed places. In the block universe, time is like that road. Every moment is a place along it, fixed, already there. And the flow you feel, the moments coming toward you and sliding into the past, may be like the scenery flowing past a traveler, not the world moving, but you, moving through it, along your own path in the block, from the town of your birth toward the town of your death. With every place along the way, just sitting there, real, waiting, whether or not you have reached it yet. It is a strange picture, and not everyone accepts it, and you do not have to. But there is a deep calm hidden in it. If it is true, then you never really lose anything. Every place along the road remains in its spot forever, even after you have passed it. This night is a place on the road. It will always be here, at this spot in the block, real, whole, exactly as it is now, long after you have traveled on. Nothing that is ever stops having been, and that, if you let it, is a very gentle thing to carry down into sleep. If that is true, then the flow of time, the sense that this moment is special and sliding forward, is not a feature of the universe at all. It is a feature of you. It is how a conscious being, embedded in the block, laying down memories in the direction of increasing entropy, experiences its own slice of the whole. The now feels special to you because you are only ever aware of one moment at a time, and each moment contains memories of the earlier ones, so it feels like motion, like flow. but the flow may be in the experiencing, not in the time. Einstein himself came close to this view. When a dear old friend of his died, he wrote to the family a famous and moving line. He said that people like them who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. He found a strange comfort in it. His friend had not truly vanished. In the block, that life was still there, still real, in its own place in time, forever. Not everyone agrees, and this is genuinely unsettled. Some physicists and philosophers insist that the flow of time is real, that the block universe leaves out something essential, that the passage of time is too basic to our experience to be dismissed as illusion. Others hold that relativity all but forces the block picture on us, because relativity, Einstein's own theory, does something remarkable to the idea of a universal now. It shows that different observers, moving differently, will disagree about which events happen at the same time. There is no single, universal present moment that everyone shares. My now and your now, if we are moving differently, slice through the block at slightly different angles. And if there is no universal now, then the idea of a single present moment, flowing forward for the whole universe at once, becomes very hard to sustain. The now seems to be local, personal, not a feature of the cosmos. That is a strange thing to carry to bed. The present moment, the most vivid thing there is, may not be a thing the universe has at all, only a thing that each of us has, separately, as we move through the block. Philosophers have argued about this for a very long time, and they have names for the two sides, and it is soothing, somehow, to know that this exact puzzle has been turned over by careful minds for centuries. On one side is the view that only the present is real. The past is gone, no longer real, and the future does not yet exist, and all that truly is this one fleeting now, forever slipping forward. This view feels right. It matches how life seems. On the other side is the block view, the one relativity seems to favor, that past, present, and future are all equally real, all sitting there in the block, and that the special glow of the present is something we bring to it, not something it has on its own. On this view, your childhood is not gone. It is still there, in its place in the block, as real as this night. And tomorrow is already there too, waiting, in its place. Which is true? Nobody knows, and reasonable people fall on both sides. It is one of those deep questions where physics and philosophy meet, and neither can quite settle it. And you do not have to settle it either, tonight. But there is a strange comfort available in the block view, if you want it, the same comfort Einstein reached for. If every moment is equally real, and stays real, in its place, then nothing you have loved is ever truly lost. Every good moment of your life is still there, back along the arrow, exactly where it happened, exactly as real as it was. You cannot return to it. The arrow only runs one way, but it remains in the block, whole and safe, forever. That is a gentle thing to hold as you drift off. Whatever this day was, it is not erased by ending. It takes its place among all the others, real, complete, kept. Let us follow the arrow forward now, all the way to its end, because it has one, and it is strangely peaceful. If entropy keeps increasing, if things keep spreading out and evening away, then where does it all lead? It leads to sameness. We touched this on the heat night. Over spans of time beyond all imagining, the stars burn out. No new ones form. The galaxies drift apart and go dark. Matter itself, over unthinkable ages, may slowly decay. Even the black holes, the highest entropy things there are, very slowly evaporate away. And in the end, everything comes to the same temperature. Everything is spread out evenly. Nothing is hotter than anything else. There are no differences left anywhere. And here's the strange part. For time, when entropy reaches its maximum, when everything is even and nothing changes, the arrow of time fades away. Think about it. The arrow comes from entropy increasing. But once entropy is at its maximum, it cannot increase anymore. There is nowhere further to go. And with no change, no spreading, no records being made, there is no way to tell one moment from the next. There is no before and after. Time, in a sense, stops having a direction, because there is nothing left to give it one. The far future of the universe is not a time of fire or violence. It is a vast, even, silent calm in which time itself loses its arrow and simply is, without flowing anywhere. The clock does not stop. There is just nothing left for it to measure, and no one left to read it, and nothing left to change. It is worth pausing on how unimaginably far away that is, because it makes the calm feel less like an ending and more like a distant horizon you need never reach. The stars will keep burning for trillions of years yet. The last small, cool stars will still be glowing when the universe is thousands of times older than it is now. Then, over spans of time so long that the numbers stop meaning anything, the dead stars will drift and cool and scatter. Black holes will grow, and then, over ages longer still, slowly evaporate away into the faintest whisper of light. And only after all of that, after a length of time that makes the entire history of the universe so far look like less than a single heartbeat, does the great evenness finally settle in. It is not close. It is not coming for us, or for anyone, or for anything we could ever know. It is simply the far, far end of the road, so distant that the distance itself is a kind of comfort. And there is a gentleness in that ending, when you sit with it, rather than a dread. The universe is not racing toward destruction. It is drifting, ever so slowly, toward rest, toward evenness, toward calm. Everything warm is slowly sharing its warmth. Everything gathered is slowly spreading out. The whole vast cosmos is, over unthinkable ages, simply settling, the way a room settles into quiet at the end of a long day, the way you are settling now. The final state of the universe is not a fire and not a scream. It is a stillness, and there is nothing to fear in a stillness. It is only rest at the largest scale there is, unimaginably far away, and you are a small, warm part of the long, slow settling that leads there, tonight, in your own small way, settling toward sleep. There is a strange idea that haunts this far future, and it is worth a gentle mention, though hold it lightly, because it is speculative. Remember the recurrence paradox, that given enough time, random fluctuations can briefly lower entropy, can gather things back into order for a moment. In an eternity of even, maximum entropy calm, such fluctuations would still happen, unimaginably rarely, but happen. And now and then, by sheer chance, a small pocket of order would flicker into being and then dissolve again. Most such fluctuations would be tiny, but given infinite time, larger ones would occur, vanishingly rarely. And here is the unsettling thought. It might be, some have argued, that it is easier, more probable, for a fluctuation to produce a single momentary conscious mind, complete with false memories of a past, than to produce a whole ordered universe like ours. Such a fluke mind is called a Boltzmann brain, and the puzzle it raises is genuinely troubling to cosmologists. How do you know you are not one? How do you know you are a real person with a real past, and not a momentary fluctuation that popped into being an instant ago, with all your memories built in? It sounds like an idle fantasy, but it is taken seriously, because a good theory of the universe should not predict that most conscious observers are random flukes. The fact that our memories are consistent, that the world is orderly and lawful, is itself a clue, and wrestling with the Boltzmann brain problem is one of the ways cosmologists test their theories of time and entropy. It is far too strange to lose sleep over, but it is one more sign of how deep the puzzle of the arrow really goes. So the arrow of time, which feels so simple, so obvious, turns out to be one of the deepest and least understood things in all of physics. We can describe it. We can trace it to entropy, and entropy to the low-entropy beginning. But we cannot say why the beginning was so ordered. We cannot fully agree on whether time truly flows, or only seems to. We cannot even be perfectly sure our own memories are what they seem. The most familiar feature of your existence, the flow you feel in every waking moment, sits on a foundation of genuine mystery. And that is not a failure. It is the honest edge of how far a young species has managed to think, lying under the same one-way flow of time that carries everything along. We have known even this much for barely a century and a half. There is a great deal still to understand, and there is something restful in that, honestly. The arrow carries you gently forward, whether or not anyone understands it, toward morning, toward sleep, asking nothing of you, but that you go along. Let us come back, for a while, from the birth and death of the universe, to the time you actually live in, the felt time of an ordinary day, because it has its own quiet mysteries, and they are gentle ones to rest with. You do not experience time as physics describes it. You do not feel a steady tick of identical seconds. Your sense of time stretches and shrinks. An hour of waiting crawls. An hour with someone you love is gone in a breath. A moment of fear can seem to slow almost to a stop, every detail sharp and long. Time, as you feel it, is not the even flow of a clock. It is something your mind makes, moment by moment, out of attention and memory and change. And there is a strange, tender fact about felt time that almost everyone notices as they get older. Time seems to speed up. A summer, when you are a child, lasts forever. A year, when you are grown, is gone before you have taken its measure. The years seem to fall faster and faster as you age. Why? Nobody is certain, but there are gentle ideas. One is that time feels long when it is full of new things, and short when it is full of the familiar. A child meets the world for the first time, everything fresh, every day dense with the new, and so a child's time is rich and slow and long. As you age, more of life becomes routine, expected, already known, and the days blur together, and time seems to slip by faster because less of it leaves a mark. Another idea is simply proportion. To a child of 5, a year is a fifth of everything they have ever known. To a person of 50, a year is a tiny slice of a long life, and so it feels smaller. Time speeds up because each year is a smaller fraction of the whole. Both ideas are probably partly true, and together they explain a great deal of the strange acceleration of the years. And notice that neither has anything to do with clocks. The clock ticks at exactly the same rate for the child and for the elder. It is the felt time, the inner time, that races. The physics of the seconds does not change at all. Only your experience of them does, which is a reminder that the time you actually live in is not quite the time the physicists measure. It is something your mind makes, out of newness and memory, and it can stretch and shrink while the steady clock ticks on, unchanged, beneath it. There is something worth holding gently in that, without any sadness. If time feels faster because life has become familiar, then time can be slowed again by newness, by attention, by meeting the world freshly. A new place, a new skill, a moment truly attended to, stretches time back out the way it was when you were young. The felt arrow is not fixed. It bends with how you live in it. And even now, lying here in the dark, you are doing something that stretches time, gently, by simply paying attention to it, by noticing your own breath, your own weight, the quiet of the room. This slow attention is a way of letting a moment be long. It is a way of living for a little while, in a wider now. And there is another clock in you, deeper than the felt sense of hours, older and steadier, and it is worth knowing about tonight of all nights, because it is the one guiding you toward sleep. Your body keeps its own time. Deep in your brain sits a tiny cluster of cells that acts as a master clock, ticking out a rhythm close to 24 hours, over and over, day after day, your whole life. It is called your circadian rhythm, and it governs far more than you would think. It tells your body when to be alert and when to grow sleepy. It sets the slow rise and fall of your temperature across the day. It releases the hormones that make you drowsy as night comes on, and the ones that wake you as morning nears. You do not feel it directly, but it is running now, and it is part of why you are settling, why the day is winding down in you, why sleep is coming. This inner clock is tied to the great outer one, the turning of the earth, the cycle of light and dark. For billions of years, life has evolved under that steady beat, the sun rising and setting, over and over, and living things have built the rhythm into their very cells so that they run in step with the turning world. You carry the day and the night inside you. Your body knows, without being told, roughly what time it is, and it is telling you now, gently, that it is time to rest. When you feel yourself growing heavy and slow tonight, that is your own ancient clock in tune with the turning earth, doing exactly what it has always done, carrying you softly down towards sleep the way it is carried every night of your life. So you are full of time all the way down, the felt time of your attention, the steady circadian time of your body, and beneath it all, the deep thermodynamic arrow, the one-way flow that carries everything, layer upon layer of time, all of them moving the same way, all of them, tonight, gently pointing you toward rest. You do not have to keep any of them. They keep themselves. You only have to let them carry you. And underneath the felt time, always, is the body's own arrow, the biological one, which is really just the second law again, working in flesh. You age because entropy increases. Your cells wear, your repairs fall a little behind the damage. The ordered structures of your body slowly drift toward disorder over a lifetime, in the one direction time allows. Aging is the arrow of time, written in a body. It is the same slope the whole universe is sliding down, felt as the passage of a life. There is nothing to fear in that tonight. It is simply what it is to be a living thing in a universe with an arrow, a small ordered pattern, holding its shape against the slope for a while, feeding on energy, laying down memories, carried gently forward, like everything else, toward the future. You are not fighting time. You are riding it. And tonight, for a while, you can simply let it carry you. There is another way time is stranger than it seems, and it comes from Einstein, and we touched it on the gravity night. Time does not tick at the same rate everywhere. It is not a single universal clock, ticking for the whole universe at once. It is personal. It runs at different rates for different people, depending on how they move and where they are. This is not a trick or an illusion. It is real, and it has been measured, and you rely on it every day. Move very fast, close to the speed of light, and your time slows relative to someone at rest. You would age more slowly. This is real. Particles that live only a flicker when moving near light speed last far longer because their inner clocks run slow. If you could fly away at near light speed and return, less time would have passed for you than for those you left behind. You would come home younger than your twin. It sounds like a story. It is simply how the universe works. And gravity slows time too, as we saw. Deeper in a gravitational field, closer to a mass, time runs slower. Your head ages a hair faster than your feet because it is a little farther from the Earth. Clocks on satellites, high above us, tick faster than clocks on the ground. The global positioning system that guides you has to correct for this every day, or it would drift and fail. So time is not one thing, flowing evenly for everyone. It is a local thing. Each of us carries our own time, ticking at its own rate, shaped by how we move and where we are. There is no master clock. There is only your clock, and my clock, and every clock a little different, all of us moving through the block along our own paths. Put that together with the arrow, and you get a subtle and beautiful picture. Time has a direction, from the low-entropy past toward the high-entropy future, and that direction is shared by everyone, everywhere. On that, all clocks agree. But the rate of time, how fast it flows, is personal, different for each of us. So we all slide the same way down the great slope from the beginning, but each at our own pace, along our own path. The arrow is universal. The clock is not. It is a strange thing to hold. The direction of time is one of the most public facts there is, the same for the whole cosmos. And the passage of time is one of the most private, yours alone, unshared, unrepeatable, ticking only for you. And if all of this is starting to feel like time is less solid than you thought, that is exactly right, and it leads to the deepest question of all, the one at the very frontier. We have been treating time as the stage on which everything happens, the backdrop, always there. But some physicists now suspect that time may not be fundamental at all, that it may be something that emerges from something deeper, the way temperature emerges from the motion of molecules, or the way the smooth surface of water emerges from countless separate atoms. When physicists try to combine their two great theories, gravity and the quantum, into a single theory of everything, something astonishing happens to time in the equations. It disappears. In the most famous equation of quantum gravity, there is no time at all. The equation describes the whole universe, and it simply does not contain a ticking time variable. This is called the problem of time, and it is genuinely baffling. Physicists have proposed ways to recover time from the timeless equations, ways in which the familiar flow might emerge from relationships between things, from one part of the universe changing relative to another. But none of it is settled, and the strangeness has not gone away. It may mean that at the very deepest level, reality is timeless, and that time, like temperature, like the arrow itself, is something that emerges only when you step back and look at the large scale. That the flow of time, and even time itself, are not woven into the bottom of things, but arise somehow from a deeper reality that does not tick at all. Nobody knows if this is right. It is one of the frontiers, argued over now, unsolved. But it is a remarkable thought to carry toward sleep. That time, the river you feel carrying you along, may itself be a kind of surface, a ripple on something deeper and stranger that has no time in it at all. While we are at the frontier, here are two small wonders about time. one about the smallest slice of it, and one about a strange new kind of matter, both gentle to drift on. First, the smallest time. Just as there may be a smallest meaningful length, we think there may be a smallest meaningful stretch of time, called the Planck time. It is unimaginably brief. A second is to the Planck time, as very roughly, the age of the universe is to a second, only far more extreme. Below that tiny interval, the very idea of time may lose its meaning, may dissolve into the quantum foam we met on other nights. So time may not be a smooth, endlessly divisible flow after all. It may be grainy, at the very bottom, made of smallest possible ticks, though we are nowhere near being able to see them. The river of time may be made of the tiniest drops. And second, the strangest new thing. For a long time, everyone assumed that a truly settled system, a thing at its lowest energy, at rest, would be perfectly still in time, unchanging, the same from moment to moment. But a few years ago, physicists created something that breaks that assumption, a genuinely new phase of matter called a time crystal. An ordinary crystal, like salt or diamond, is a pattern that repeats in space, the same arrangement over and over across the material. A time crystal is a pattern that repeats in time. It cycles, ticking between states, over and over, forever, even in its lowest energy state, without being driven, without winding down. It is a little like a clock that ticks without any energy source, not by breaking the laws, but by exploiting a subtle quantum loophole. It sounds impossible, and for a while everyone thought it was, and then it was made, in a laboratory, in tiny quantum systems. It is one of the newest and strangest things in physics, a piece of matter that keeps time built into its very being. And it is a lovely reminder that even now, even with something as old and familiar as time, we are still finding genuinely new things, still being surprised. Before we turn for home, there is one more thing worth sitting with, and it is perhaps the most personal of all, because it is about why you are here at all, in a universe with an arrow. Life depends on the arrow of time. It could not exist without it. Everything you do, every breath, every thought, every heartbeat, depends on time having a direction, on entropy having somewhere to go. Here is why. A living thing is an island of order, a pattern held against the drift toward disorder. And we saw, on the heat night, how it holds that pattern. It feeds on the flow of energy. It takes in order, in the form of food or sunlight, and it gives off disorder in the form of heat. And by keeping that flow going, it holds its own shape against the slope. But a flow needs a direction. It needs an arrow. Order can only flow from somewhere to somewhere. Energy can only spread from concentrated to spread out. And that spreading, that flow, is the arrow of time. Life is a thing that has learned to stand in the river of increasing entropy and use the current to hold its shape, the way a whirlpool holds its shape in flowing water, while the water itself rushes through and past. The ultimate source of the flow, for us, is the sun. The sun pours out concentrated, ordered energy, a stream of sunlight, and the earth receives it and radiates it back out to the cold dark of space as spread out heat. In between, in that flow from ordered sunlight to disordered heat, life makes its living. Plants catch the ordered light and build themselves. You eat the plants, or eat the things that ate the plants, and build yourself, and give off your warmth to the room and the night. Every living thing is riding the flow from the ordered sun to the cold sky, holding its shape in the current for a little while, and the whole flow, from the sun's fire to the cold of space, is one small part of the great slide of the universe from its ordered beginning toward its even end. You are a pattern in that slide. You are the arrow of time, briefly, holding a shape and looking back at itself and wondering where it comes from. So the arrow that makes your tea cool and your body age and your memories form is the very same arrow that makes your life possible in the first place. Without it, there would be no flow to feed on, no direction to remember in, no way for a pattern to persist and grow and think. A universe without an arrow would be a universe without life, without change, without stories, without you. The one-way flow of time is not just a curiosity of physics. It is the condition of everything that matters. It is the reason there is a you at all, lying here, in a particular moment, with a past to remember and a future to drift toward. And it all traces back, every bit of it, to that extraordinarily ordered beginning 14 billion years ago that nobody can yet explain. You are a child of the low-entropy dawn. So is everyone. So is everything alive. There is a lovely way to see your whole life in this light. You are a small eddy of order in a great flowing river of increasing disorder. The river rushes on from the ordered beginning toward the even end, and cannot be stopped, and does not pause. And in it, for a little while, a pattern holds, a whirlpool, spinning, keeping its shape, while the water pours through it and past it. That whirlpool is you. It is every living thing. It does not hold its shape by standing still against the current. It holds its shape by letting the current flow through it, by taking in order and giving off disorder, endlessly, for as long as it lasts. And when it ends, when the pattern finally lets go, the water does not stop. It simply flows on, carrying what was the whirlpool along with it, into the rest of the river. There is no sadness in that tonight, only a kind of belonging. You are not separate from the great flow of time. You are made of it. You are one of its shapes, one of the beautiful, temporary patterns it makes as it pours from the beginning toward the end. For a little while, the river of time has taken the shape of you, a shape that can breathe and remember and wonder about the river itself. That is a rare and lovely thing for a flow of increasing entropy to do, and you get to be it, for now, tonight, lying here in the dark, a small living eddy in the oldest current there is. There is a gentle consequence of all this that touches something you feel every day. The difference between the past and the future, not in physics, but in your life. The past feels fixed, done, unchangeable. The future feels open, undecided, full of possibility. And that difference, too, comes from the arrow, from entropy, from the low entropy beginning. The past is fixed because it has left records. It is written into the arrangement of things, into your memories, into the marks left on the world. The future has left no records, because records point the other way. So the past is knowable and settled, and the future is open and unwritten. And the difference between them is the difference between the direction that has already been recorded and the direction that has not yet. There is something freeing in that, if you let there be. The openness of the future is not an illusion born of ignorance. It is built into the structure of time itself, into the fact that the future has not yet laid down its traces. Whatever comes tomorrow is, in a real sense, not yet fixed in the way yesterday is. The arrow that carries you forward carries you into genuinely open ground. And the past, for all that it is fixed, is also safely behind you, done, unable to be changed, which is its own kind of peace. You do not have to hold the past up or fix it or carry it forward. It is written. It is complete. It stays where it is, in its place in the block, while you move on. There is a real rest in that, if you let yourself take it. So much of the weight we carry is the weight of the past, held up, gone over, replayed. But the past does not need holding. It is already fixed, already safe, already exactly what it was, and nothing you do tonight can change it or lose it. You can set it down. You do not have to guard it or mend it or keep it alive by attention. It will keep itself in its place, whole, whether or not you think of it. Letting go of the past is not losing it. It is trusting that it stays on its own, without your grip. And the future, for all that it is open, does not need holding either, because it has not happened yet and cannot be reached from here by worrying. The only place you can actually be is this moment, this one now, the thin, bright edge where the fixed past meets the open future, where the arrow is passing through you. That edge is the only place anyone has ever lived, and it is enough. It is, in fact, all there is. So you can let the past settle behind you and the future wait ahead and simply be here in the one moving moment, breathing, carried, at rest. And here is a question that follows naturally, and it is one that even the greatest minds have stumbled over. Could the arrow ever reverse? If the arrow points away from the low-entropy beginning, then what happens if the universe someday stops expanding and begins to contract, falling back toward a big crunch? Would time run backwards then? Would entropy decrease? Would eggs unbreak and the old grow young? For a while, Stephen Hawking thought the answer might be yes, that in a contracting universe, the arrow would reverse. It is one of the few times he publicly admitted to a mistake. He came to see that he had been wrong, that the arrow would not reverse just because the universe contracted, that a contracting universe would still have increasing entropy, still run forward, still slide toward disorder. The arrow does not come from the expansion. It comes from the low entropy beginning, and there is only one beginning, only one place of low entropy, and time points away from it, always, no matter what the universe does later. So the arrow is not tied to the growing of space. It is tied to the ordered dawn, and it points forward from there, forever, whatever comes. So we arrive, at the end of the thinking, at a place that is both humbling and strangely restful. We understand the arrow of time better than we ever have, and we do not understand it at all. We can trace it, step by step, from the cooling of your tea, through entropy, through Boltzmann's statistics, all the way back to the low entropy beginning of the universe. And there, at the beginning, the trail runs out into a mystery no one has solved. Why was the universe so ordered at the start? We do not know. We can say that everything about time depends on it. We cannot say why it was so. And beyond that lie deeper puzzles still, whether time truly flows, whether it is fundamental or emergent, whether our own memories are trustworthy. The most familiar thing in your life is, at the bottom, one of the great unsolved questions in science, and that is all right. It is the honest edge of what a young species has managed to think. The arrow carries us all forward regardless, gently, whether or not we understand it, toward morning, toward whatever comes, and it asks nothing of us but that we go along. So let the people we met tonight drift off now, one by one, the way you let go of a day. Clausius, who gave the arrow its name and called it entropy. Boltzmann, who saw that it was all about counting, about probability, and who staked his life on the atoms underneath it. Loschmidt and Zermelo, who found the paradoxes that made everyone think harder. Carnot and Kelvin, who first glimpsed the arrow in the belly of a steam engine, and then saw it stretch across the whole cosmos. Einstein, who taught us that the now is not universal, and who found comfort, at a friend's death, in the block where every moment stays real. Penrose and Hawking, wrestling with why the beginning was so strangely ordered, and honest enough to change their minds when they were wrong. And all the ones still at it tonight, turning over the low-entropy dawn, the block, the problem of time, the strange new time crystals, trying to understand the river we are all carried on. You do not have to keep their names. Let them go. They did the work so the understanding would exist, not so that you would have to carry it. It lives out there now, in the world, whether or not you remember a word of it. And let the confusion settle too, gently, because it was never a problem to solve before you could rest. We do not know why the universe began so ordered. We do not know if time truly flows, or only seems to. We do not know if time is fundamental, or something that emerges from a deeper reality with no time in it at all. These are open questions, out in the world, held by people who love them, and not one of them needs anything from you tonight. Let them stay open. They are a soft place to lie down. There is something worth resting on in the fact that even time, the most familiar thing there is, keeps its deepest secret. We have followed it as far as anyone can, from the cooling of a cup all the way back to the birth of the universe, and at the very bottom, we found not an answer, but a mystery, the strange low-entropy dawn that nobody can explain. And that is all right. A world with a few doors still closed is a world that still has wonders in it. If we understood everything about time, there would be nothing left to wonder at, lying awake in the dark. Instead, the oldest and plainest thing in your life, the flow you feel in every moment, is still, at the bottom, a genuine mystery, and you are carried along on it anyway, gently, whether or not it is solved, the way you have been every night of your life. So you do not have to understand time to rest in it. You never did. Every night you have ever slept, the arrow carried you down and out the other side into morning, without your knowing how it worked, without your doing anything at all. It will do the same tonight. The understanding can wait. The wondering can wait. All of it can wait. There is nothing to solve, and nothing to hold, and nowhere to be but here, on the moving edge of now, being carried softly towards sleep. So let's come home now, slowly, back down the arrow, from the far end, all the way to this moment, to this bed. Start at the very end of time, in the far future, where entropy has reached its maximum, where everything is even and silent, and the arrow itself has faded away. Let that distant calm stay where it is, unimaginably far ahead. Come back toward now, past the slow dimming of the stars, past the long ages when the galaxies drift apart and go dark, back to our own time, where the stars still burn, where the arrow still runs strong, where time still flows. Come inward, past the drifting galaxies, still bright, still full of burning stars. Come to one galaxy, a great slow wheel of a few 100 billion suns, turning in the dark, each one pouring out its ordered light and slowly spending itself, riding the arrow like everything else. Come down into one arm of it, past clouds of gas where new stars are being born, past old stars breathing their last, to one ordinary yellow star out near the quiet edge. Come along one of its rays. That ray is the flow made visible, ordered light streaming out from the star toward the cold dark of space, and on a small blue world in its path, life catches that flow, and rides it, and lives. Come down to that world. It is turning slowly, one face toward the star, one face away. Come to the night side, the half turned away, where it is dark, where you are. Come down through the thin air, the little band of atmosphere that holds all the weather and all the breathing there has ever been, down to the land, to the region, to the town, to the street, to the roof over your head, and in, through it, to this room, to the bed, to the covers, to your own body lying here, carried gently forward on the arrow, breathing in the dark. You have come all the way down the arrow, from the end of time to this one quiet moment. There is nowhere further to go. You are here. You are now. And rest there. You have come all the way down the arrow, from the end of time to this single moment. Feel the weight of your body on the bed. Feel the covers over you. Feel where you are heavy, where you are held, where you are still. Feel the slow rise and fall of your breath, in and out, each one new, each one passing gently into the past, complete as the next one arrives, and feel, softly, the arrow of time moving through you, right now, this instant. It is carrying you from this moment to the next, without any effort, the way it always has. You are not making it move. You are not holding it back. You are simply in it, floating on it, being carried, the way a leaf is carried on a slow river. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to reach. The next moment will come on its own, and the one after that, all night, each one arriving softly on the current, whether you wait for it or not. So you do not have to wait. You do not have to watch. You can simply let go and let the arrow carry you down and down into rest. It has never once failed to carry you. It will not fail tonight. It will bring you gently through the dark and out the other side into the morning, the way it always has. You are a creature of the arrow. Everything about you points one way. Your breath comes in and goes out and does not run backward. Your heart beats forward, never back. Your thoughts follow one another in order, each built on the last. Your memories reach behind you, into the fixed and finished past, and never ahead into the open future. You are made of the arrow. You are the second law, wearing the shape of a person, feeling itself flow. And feel how gently it moves. There is no rush in it. The arrow does not drag you. It carries you, the way a slow river carries a leaf, without effort, without struggle. You do not have to swim. You do not have to paddle toward the future. It comes to you, one moment at a time, on its own, and passes into the fixed and finished past on its own, and the next moment arrives on its own. All of it happens without any doing on your part. You could not stop it if you tried. And you do not have to try. You only have to float. Feel your breath again, moving in and out, and notice that it is a little arrow of its own. In and out. Each breath begins and ends and does not come back. Each one is new. You have taken many millions of breaths in your life, and everyone is behind you now, in the past, complete. And there are more ahead, waiting in the open future, that the arrow will bring you, one at a time, all night, without your asking. You do not have to count them. You do not have to make them come. They arrive on the current, gently, the way everything does, and feel the whole slide behind you, the whole of your life so far, laid out along the arrow. Every day you have lived is back there, real, in its place, kept. This morning, yesterday, the years behind you, all of them, whole and safe in the block, unable to be lost. You carry forward only the memory, but the moments themselves remain, each in its place, as real as this one. There is nothing to hold on to, because nothing is falling away. It is all still there, behind you, exactly where it happened. You are simply moving on, gently, toward what comes next, and feel, in your body, the whole long slide behind you. The atoms in you were made in the ordered early universe and in stars, and have been carried forward on the arrow for billions of years to arrive here, tonight, as you. Every moment of your life so far is behind you now, fixed, complete, written into the block, safe. This morning is back there, real, in its place, unchangeable. Your childhood is back there, real, in its place. Nothing that has been is truly lost. It is all still there, behind you along the arrow, as real as it ever was. You carry only the memory of it forward, but the thing itself remains, in its own moment, forever. And ahead of you lies the open future, not yet written, not yet fixed, carrying you gently toward morning. You do not have to reach for it. You do not have to hold it, or steer it, or stay awake for it. The arrow will carry you there on its own, the way it carries everything, gently, without effort, at its own quiet pace. All you have to do is go along, and think gently of how much the arrow does for you, without ever being asked. It brought you here. Every good moment you have ever had came to you on the arrow, arrived on the current, one at a time. It carried you from your first breath to this one, through everything, gently, without your steering. It will carry you on through the night and into the morning, and through all the days still ahead, each one arriving in its turn, on its own, freely given. You never had to make time come. It simply came, and comes, and will come. That is a kind of generosity, if you think of it that way. The future is handed to you, moment by moment, for nothing, all your life long, and you do not have to earn the next moment, or reach for it, or worry it into being. It is already on its way. The arrow is bringing it, the way it brings everything, gently, on time, without fail. So you can set down all the reaching. You can stop leaning toward tomorrow. Tomorrow will come to you, carried on the same current that has carried every day of your life. All you have to do tonight is rest and let it come. So there is nothing you need to do now, and nothing you need to hold. The arrow will keep flowing, carrying the whole universe forward, whether or not you attend to it. Your tea, if it is still there, will cool on its own. Your body will age, gently, a hair at a time, without any help from you. Time will carry you toward morning while you sleep, the way it always has, the way it always will. The stars will drift on, a hair, in their slow slide. The universe will unwind, a little further, gently, as it has every night of your life. It will all carry on exactly as it always has, whether you follow it or not. It will still be flowing in the morning, and so will you, carried along with it. You do not have to remember any of it. There is no test in the morning, no need to recall entropy from the past hypothesis, or which arrow is which, or why the beginning was so ordered. Let the names go. Let the ideas go. Let the whole vast question of time drift out of your hands. It was never yours to carry. It was only something to listen to on the way down into sleep. All that is left, the only thing being asked of you now, is to lie here and be what you already are. A small ordered pattern, riding the great arrow, breathing in the dark, carried gently forward toward the morning. Let the far end of time go now, the great evenness, unimaginably distant. Let the beginning go, the ordered dawn, 14 billion years behind. Let the paradoxes go, and the block, and the question of whether time truly flows. Let the whole vast puzzle drift off to the edges of the dark. None of it needs you tonight. None of it ever did. Let the day go too. Whatever it was, it is behind you now, complete, in its place, safe. You do not have to carry it forward, or fix it, or hold it up. It is written. It is done. Let it settle back into the block with all the other days, real, kept, and finished. There is nothing left to do with it but let it rest. And let tomorrow go, for now. It is coming, on its own, on the current, and you do not have to reach for it. It will arrive when it arrives, gently, carried on the same arrow that has brought you every day of your life. You can meet it in the morning. Tonight, there is only this breath, this weight, this quiet room, this one wide moment, which is all you ever really have. So let your breathing slow. Let the arrow carry you, the way it always has, without your help. Let the past stay fixed and safe behind you. Let the future stay open and gentle ahead. Let this one moment be wide and quiet, and enough. There is nothing to do but rest here and be carried in a quiet, dark room, one small pattern in the great slide of time, breathing in the dark. Feel it one more time, gently. The weight of you on the bed, in this one moment. The slow rise and fall of your breath, each one new, each one passing. The quiet of the room, and the arrow, moving through all of it, moving through you, carrying this moment softly into the next, and the next, without any effort of yours, the way it always has, the way it always will. You do not have to feel it to be carried by it. It will carry you all the same, all night, down into sleep, and out the other side into morning. The room is dark. The bed is holding you. Time is flowing everywhere, gently, the way it always has, carrying you toward morning, and you do not have to help it, or understand it, or stay awake for any of it. You only have to lie here and be carried. Let the past settle behind you, fixed and safe. Let the future wait ahead, open and gentle. Let this one moment be wide and quiet and enough. Let the arrow do the rest, the way it always has and always will. So just rest now and let it gently carry you. It will all still be here, and so will you. Good night.